Welcome to part 2 of this video. We're going to unlock 8 scales using our pivot tones. All right, now it's just a game. We're going to have some fun, and we're going to do this from the perspective of the major scale as being our starting point. So the game isn't that hard. It doesn't take that long to do. It's not that difficult to understand, but it takes some background information that I'd like to share with you to get you in the right mindset of playing this game so that we can project what it means for us in the future when we use these patterns, sets of notes, in our improvisation. All right? So let's cover a couple of things. Let's review. We've reimagined our scales from exercises for our hands, right? It doesn't have to happen over time anymore. It can happen all at the same time, right? We can now see the scale before we play it. Super important as an improvisational musician. See your choices. The pivot tones are a great way to organize and categorize these scales into their major version and their minor version, which would be the left-hand pivot tone, and their colors, which would be in the right-hand pivot tones, okay? And we'll cover that. So number 1, I want you to do the best you can forgetting what you know, okay? So if you don't know scales and you don't have a lifestyle of running through your scales in any way, you know, whether it's diatonically up the white keys, chromatically in running major scales with each one of those roots, or if you run them through the cycle of fifths, cycle of fourths, forward or backward, there's so many ways that we could do this, right? But if you don't already have a regimen for doing that, then this will be a lot easier for you to swallow. But if you have a background of studying and taking proper piano lessons, and you have an experience how you interface with major scales, I want you to do your best to suspend disbelief for a second and just stay curious and go with me on this concept, okay? So the next thing I want to cover is that we're going to deal with a concept called modes. And modes is kind of a dirty word in the theory realm because it's one of those things that remain elusive. And some people claim to know what modes are, but they don't really know what to do with them. Some people claim that it's just too hard, that they don't even know what they are or why they are and why they're even a thing and why are we learning these names. And I want to tell you this, when we play a scale, what we automatically do as humans is try to categorize that scale. So we think of it as a beginning and an end, right? But I want to tell you that the beginning and an end of a scale is only there so we can recognize the pattern from a point to a point. It's nice for our brains. It's nice for us to learn things. But in actuality, music does not know that we're playing a C scale starting from C to C. It's just going to sound whatever we do, okay? So I can go like this and play a C scale. I'm utilizing the notes of a C scale. Every note that I'm playing is utilizing a C scale. The music doesn't know that, the piano doesn't know that, but we're categorizing it as that, okay? So then what can we draw from this? When I play a C scale, and I want to organize things into 8 notes at a time or 8-note series, I can change that starting note and ending note, and I get what's called a mode. And let's just define a mode as a scale inside of a scale. Is it really a scale inside of a scale? No. It's just another set of notes using the white notes on the scale in this case, right? But let's say E flat. Same pattern, just starting on E flat to E flat. So if we understand what a major scale is and we know how to start from E flat to go to E flat and come back, right? And then we analyze that pattern, then we learn what a major scale is. But then once we learn that, then the starting note is really arbitrary because what we've just learned is a series of notes that are true always up and down the keyboard. Does not matter where we're starting or ending, right? And so it wouldn't occur to me, if I was just discovering this, it wouldn't occur to me to name every single iteration and try to categorize it. It just wouldn't. It's too much work. I don't do that, so, right? What I say is, oh, it's just this. You know, those things. I played a wrong note, right? How did I know that? Well, because it was outside of the set of notes that I was choosing to use. What set of notes? I don't know. These, right? So that's how I think, and that's how I like to go at it. We'll name them because we need names and we need rules. I get it, but I want you to suspend your disbelief. So what we've just covered are modes. I've got 7 modes. Why? Because there are really 7 notes in this scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Repeat, so it's actually 1, not 8. Okay? So that gives me 7 starting notes and 7 ending notes. That gives me 7 new scales. I want to forget about all that right now and just say, this set of notes, okay? So that's my modes video. I hope you got something out of that. Okay, so that's that. Now, if starting points are arbitrary, once you establish a set of tones, right, that you're going to be working with, again, there are a set of tones that repeat here, 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 here. They're true always, all over the keyboard, in every octave. That's what's connecting our music together, making it harmonious. If starting and ending points are arbitrary, then I must conclude, I'm going to take a leap of logic here and say, then scales aren't really a thing. Okay? So I don't know how that hits you. You can hit me in the comments if you want to. But scales aren't a thing. And I'm coming from the point of just playing music. I know that I can do this because I know that I want to make the sound of what we call the C major scale. But if I want to play this, I don't know what I just played. I mean, I know what I could play. I could play it again, but I don't know the names. I'm not thinking names. I'm not thinking context. I'm looking at topography and I'm doing a dance. And I'm doing a dance according to certain hand positions that I've worked on. And this is a result of practice, practicing creativity, practicing certain shapes, and also practicing randomness. Okay, now that sounds dissonant because I've got this top note and that bottom note, which we'll cover in other videos as what sounds dissonant and what doesn't. But I can create nice tones. I'm all using C major scale, okay? So I just want to posit that idea that scales aren't really a thing, but we're going to call them a thing so that we can start naming stuff and identifying groups of notes and their patterns. But then we're going to explode them out and forget what we know and just make music out of them. Is that fair? Okay, cool. So now, let's play the game. So here's the game. Super simple. If we use a C scale, and we're going to use the major scale as our reference point, because we have to start somewhere, I choose major. All right, so let's just look at C major and talk about what is. Where are we starting? Okay, we've done this enough today, so we know. What we have here is really super interesting to me, and I'm not just saying that because I'm making a video about it. I really am enamored by how the piano works and how music works and how this all works out and the patterns of music. I really am excited about all this stuff. So I'm not putting on like, oh, isn't this really great? Yeah, no, I am excited about it. So let's look at it. In my left hand, if I go from left to right, I can come up with the pattern of first note, 2 giants, and a baby. That's how I like to teach it, because I can picture a giant and I can picture a baby. It's a lot easier to memorize 2 giants and a baby than 2 whole steps and a half step. Whole step is an idea, a half step is an idea, or they're a measurement, right? So a first note, 2 whole steps and a half step. I like to say first note, 2 giants and a baby, okay? Just for ease of use. And in my right hand, I have the exact same pattern if I ignore the space between the 2 hands, right? First note, two giants and a baby. What the major scale gives us in tetrachord land are two equal halves, and it gives us the sound. And it just happens that the white keys of a piano are set up for this pattern. Got it? And it doesn't matter if it's starting on C, D, E, they're all set up to make this sound, this soundscape. Okay, so that's our first reference scale. Great, so now let's come up with an iteration. Let's pivot our first tone. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pivot the third tone of the scale. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? And it just happens to land on finger number 3. Okay, I'm going to pivot downward a half step and give it this flavor. Or give it that category, let's say. So now I have let's call this a minor tetrachord. Got it? So that's a minor over here, but I'm not going to move anything over here. I'm still playing major. Okay? Now forget what you know about anything. If you've never experienced this concept before, forget it, right? This is happening right now. So now I have, let's say this is called a minor, major scale. All right? Because I have a minor tetrachord and a major tetrachord. All right? This is called the melodic minor scale. And again, it's true here. And here. And here, and here, and here, and here, and here. So I love this scale. And we're going to get into this in the third part on what you can actually do with these scales, right? But, you know, you can... Right? You can make really nice sounds if you know what to do with your hands using this scale. Okay, great. So now we've got a major, a minor, major. Cool? Now let's make an iteration in our right hand. This is the next scale that I want to go to because this is going to give us our first 4 principal scales or unique scales or novel scales, the ones that show up and aren't part of something else, okay? So now what I'm going to do is go back to major, boop, and in my right hand, I'm going to pivot the 6th tone, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? And I'm going to pivot down. Okay, now I'm going to make it a little assumption here. I'm not just discovering this for the first time. I know where this comes from, so I'm just going to call this in my right hand, if we're familiar with scales and we have a history of interacting with them. That sounds like the top side of a harmonic minor scale, if we recognize it with our ears. So let's just call that a harmonic tetrachord. Arbitrary, just gave it a name. All right. But I'm not going to change my left hand. Ooh, that's cool, right? And I get that cluster. Can I see it? Can I play it? Right? Try that. Play, put your hands and just see if you can lift up first, see it first, play it with your eyes, play it with your hands, and then play it in all octaves. But don't play it until you see it. Don't figure it out. See it, then play it. If you're doing that, you're improvising. You are making decisions and intentions on the keyboard and then doing them of your own will. Okay, so welcome. We are improvising. Cool. Now, let's make the iteration in the left hand and do the minor version of this harmonic tetrachord. So what are we going to do? Left hand is going to pivot the 3rd. Now I have a minor harmonic. Harmonic minor scale, right? But I'm in terms of tetrachord land, I'm calling this minor harmonic. Cool? Now this is a familiar sound to us. This we understand. Right? It gives us that really sentimental, heart-wrenching minor sound. that we know so well, right? When we want to get moody. It's really great for that. Okay, so let's review because we've gotten to 4 scales. We've got major, major, minor, major, then major harmonic, and minor harmonic. And the reason I split these 4 up in the beginning is because these are the 4 scales that we can come up with in this game that are unique and novel unto themselves. They hold their own, they are their own thing. The next 4, what we're going to discover are modes of those scales in other keys. But we're just going to keep playing the game because we've got 1 pivot tone in the left hand that gives us 2 choices, and 2 pivot tones in the right hand that gives us 4 choices. 2 times 4 is 8. So let's just keep going. So what have we not done yet? Let's go back to major. Okay, let's pivot our 7th tone. And now we're going to get into our first tetrachord scale that gives us a mode of another scale. And I'll demonstrate that. Major, and now I'm going to do minor by taking the 7th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and pivoting down. And I use this all day long. Okay, I use this. Okay, that is a C something. I just call it a C something for now. But what is it coming from? Like if I told you this is a mode of a major scale, well, let's just look at it in nature. It's all white notes. It's got 1 black note, and it's a B flat. Well, if you play scales, you're going to come up pretty quickly with, oh yeah, that's an F major scale, because the F major scale is white notes with the B flat according to that pattern. First note, 2 giants and a baby, 3 giants and a baby, right? As the pattern of the scale. Pattern of the tetrachord is first note, 2 giants and a baby, first note, 2 giants and a baby. F major. Now let's crawl back down to where we were. And that's what gave us our major, minor. Got it? Okay, cool. Now let's do the minor version of this. Check it out. Let's take our 3rd in our left hand, pivot down to the 3rd, or the minor 3rd, and we get this sound. And this is a familiar sound too. We get, stuff like that. Okay? So if I told you, minor, minor, that this is a mode of another scale, well, let's describe it. Okay, it's got 2 black notes. They happen to be flats. They're B flat and E flat. If we know our key signatures, we know that's a B flat major scale. So, where's B flat? It's right here, right next to my C. So I must be playing the 2nd mode of a B flat major scale. That's all that is. But for the purposes of the game, this is definitely one of the sounds that we come up with. But there's B flat. So if I run B flat, check it out. I come up on this scale anyways. Cool? So this minor tetrachord scale is found within one of the modes of all major scales. Did you catch that? I hope that was easy to understand. So when I play a C major scale, I'm also playing a D 2nd mode scale, right? It's called a Dorian scale. I don't want to throw a bunch of names at you because this is not about naming modes. But it's the 2nd mode of a C scale. It's the same scale, same exact pattern. It just happens to be on the white notes, which is confusing, right? But if we go to C and play the same one, we're playing, and that belongs to B flat major. All right, let's go. Let's try to figure out what we haven't done yet. Okay, so now let's go back to major. Okay, back to our reference. Now what are we going to change? We've changed to the 6th, and we've done major and minor. We've changed the 7th, and we've done major and minor. Okay? We've changed nothing, and we've done major and minor. Got it? See how we categorize that? Let's change both the 6th and the 7th, right? So now we're going to take 6 and 7, and we're going to pivot both of them when we get this shape. Now, I honestly don't know what to call that, so I'm not going to give it a name, okay? But it's got a pattern of a first note, half step, whole step, whole step. Okay, it's like a reverse minor. If you want to call it a reverse minor, fine. Okay, and I'm going to say major and this thing. Okay? That's a pretty cool sound. Gives us a pretty cool musical landscape, right? Notice I just played music. I didn't worry about my first note and ending note. Well, if I told you that this is the mode of another scale, this is a little more difficult. You have to use your brain here. What would it be? Well, I'll tell you. It's the 5th mode of an F scale. Okay? And if we just climb up to F, right? 5, we go 5, 6, 7, and then back to 1. What are we looking at? We're looking at a minor tetrachord and a major tetrachord, which is one of our first principal scales. Okay? It's just coming from a different key. That's why I categorize those first 4 as unique, novel, principal scales. Okay? So here we are. That's the same as when we were playing this. Minor, major. Minor, major. Okay? But when we do it in C and we pivot our 6th and 7th and we stay major, that's the sound that we get. Pretty cool, right? Okay, great. Now, let's do one more iteration. What's the next category that we get to do here? We're going to make this a minor scale. Cool. So now we have a minor and this thing. Reverse minor, right? Okay, so now we have this sound. If I told you that this is a mode of another scale, what would it be? Well, what are we looking at here? We're looking at white notes. Oh, sorry. White notes with the exception of 3 flats. B flat, E flat, and A flat. And I said them in that order on purpose because that's the way they show up in music. Well, if you know your scales, you know that that's just an E flat major scale. Major, major. Walk down, 7, 6. And that's what we know as our natural minor scale, right? The 6th degree of every major scale gives us this minor pattern. Minor and this reverse minor, okay? So that's 8 scales. We did it. So now let's do it totally quickly. Major, minor, major. Major harmonic, minor harmonic. Then major minor, minor minor. Then major reverse minor, minor reverse minor. Okay? And the last 4 that I played were modes of either another major scale or another melodic minor scale. But we discovered some pretty cool sounds that I really enjoy using when I play music. I play jazz and I play pop. I play all sorts of types of music, and these concepts I'm using all the time everywhere. I'm thinking this way. I'm thinking, what is the palette at the moment, right? In this moment of this music, which palette am I using to play this piece of music? Now, there are other details like where's the bass note, right? And what's going on in the melody. But everything in that moment is connected by the scale, okay? And so this concludes the game, okay? So I hope you liked that game. You can do this now on any set of notes, right? Any set of notes. So let's go to F sharp, right? Okay? Now, if you can get through those just like I did, that's cool. But what I want you to do is, as you do them, make sure you can play them in all of the octaves, and then see if you can kind of move your hands around up and down to see if you can follow the key choices now. It becomes about visually seeing what my key choices are. Let's say that's going to be this one. Well, then, right? It's, can I crawl down and keep my note choices? That's the mark of an improvisational musician, using their visual sensibilities, and then eventually your tactile sensibilities. Just knowing where you are on the keyboard because of the learned geography, the learned topography. You just kind of know where you're at and kind of know what to play because you recognize the soundscape that you're playing. You're not thinking scales or modes or the names of them. You're just thinking of what they look and feel like and knowing what they produce for you in your improvisation. All right, I hope you love that. So, final thoughts and conclusions. As I said, everything that I show you here, everything that I tell you, let me back that up. As I said, nothing that I show you here, nothing that I tell you is going to make you a better player. It's going to be you taking something that you understand and working it with your own hands at the keys, rolling up your sleeves, working on your expertise. So one of the questions that we'll have when you're learning new information is, okay, what do I do now? What's the best way to go about this? All right? So I've showed you 8 scales. You don't need all 8 of those to get started or even to make great music. So let's 80-20 this. Let's use the Pareto principle and say, how do I 80-20 this learning? What do I really need to concentrate on that's going to give me the most output? Well, the first thing you should concentrate on are your major scales. Can you tetrachord these major scales everywhere on the piano, in all octaves, in all keys? There's only 12, right? Can you do that? That's what you want to get at, because just with major, we've just demonstrated, with major alone, you're going to experience all the modes inside of those major scales as keyscapes and options. You've already covered them. They're assumed, they're baked in, okay? The next thing that you want to learn would be your harmonic minor scales. So what I've just stated are basically the 2 most important principal scales that we discovered in our pivot exercise, okay? A pivot tetrachord exercise. And you're going to learn them as a series of notes, repeated in octaves, and modes are all included, okay? We're gonna play them with our eyes, because that's what we do as improvisators, right? It sounds derogatory. You're such an improvisator. We're gonna do this at the keyboard when we play. Our eyes and this piano are keenly linked. So we're going to take advantage of that link, okay? And just say, make it easy. Look at what you're going to play and then play it. So what do? Learn your major scales and their modes, meaning move up and down your major scales and see if you can keep those note choices intact as you move them. And then learn your harmonic minor scales and try to move up and down the modes of that. That'll be a little more challenging. It's a little less familiar. So you just take your time and just do it. But if you learn the 12 and you learn the modes just by moving up and down and learning them as soundscapes and note choices, if you just do that, you're going to be light years ahead of where you would be if you try to consume all of this stuff all at the same time. You can always come back to this video, check in and say, hey, what did we cover there? I want to check that out now that I know my majors and my harmonic minors. All right, stick around. What the heck do we do with these scales? How do they make music? What do I do with them? How do I sound awesome using scales as an improviser at the piano?